Alright, today I'm going to show you guys what I've been feeding my experimental pigs, the ones that were raising on nothing but dumpster that I've been feeding. I've already kind of got started before I realized I was going to make a video. But, alright, I showed you in another video how I break up all the chips and snacks and into two separate things. I got the one container, which this is potato chips, wheat thins, corn chips, basically all the salty things that don't have any sugar in them and that are mostly composed of either grain or potatoes or flour. I take 2 scoops of that, pour it in the bucket here. Okay. Then, because I'm trying to fatten them up and I'm trying to utilize all this food that we're happen to be finding in the dumpsters, which unfortunately a lot of it is just junk food. Moon pies, cookies, everything, candy, puddings, all the really sweet things that my family doesn't eat, or we would eat it if we didn't care about living, but we do care about living and living a happy, rich life, so we're not eating all that unhealthy stuff, of course, because it causes diabetes and obesity, whatnot. But I didn't want all this food to be going to waste. It's kind of like a moral dilemma, because here's this dumpster that's totally packed with food every night, and it's a simple step or two to process it, just opening it up, sorting it, seeing which ones have been eaten by rats or which have gotten wet and should be thrown out, which ones can be eaten by humans, and then here I'm left with this huge, actually the majority of what we pull out of the dumpster goes into the sorting section of not even consumable by humans. So goats really shouldn't be eating this stuff, because a lot of these, like for instance honey buns and ho-hos, ding-dongs, most of those big fatty, sweet, gooey pastries also contain things like beef lard, tallow, which is animal fat, and I don't really. Goats are vegetarians by nature, and so they shouldn't be eating any animal products. I try not to even feed them eggs, but can't be avoided sometimes. But pigs can eat that just fine, and the pigs can benefit from the extra fat and lard by actually turning it into a harvestable animal meat. Pigs are one of the most efficient domestic animals, if not the most efficient, at turning a certain given amount of pounds of food into a given amount of pounds of meat. I forget the exact stats, but I believe it's something like 60 to 80 pounds of corn has to go into every 1 pound of beef produced by cattle. So that's an extremely inefficient ratio, and I don't know the one for pigs. I'll probably try to post it in the description. Anyways, I'm trying to fatten up some pigs. I hate wasting the food, so I crunch up all this sweet gooey stuff. I also showed that in another video. To every 2 scoops of grain and decently wholesome food, I'm adding 1 scoop of this blend, which is, like I said, everything sweet mixed with a little bit of flour. Dump one of those in there. And then we come across the canned goods, which we're pulling out a bunch of canned goods, a bunch of condiments like Cheese Whiz and mayonnaise and, and then there's also a bunch of pudding and sweet fruit cups, things like that. So I'm trying to also incorporate using those into the pig feed. So that way I'm using up as much as I can of the food that I'm pulling out of the dumpster. And, morally and ideally, ethically, I'd like to be able to have enough pigs and the farm animals to dispose of all the extra food, feed what's good to people, support human life and support animal life, and start harvesting the animals like goats for goat meat, and grow some milk goats for the milk and dairy products, butter, cheese, things of that nature. Grow pigs for their fat and for their meat, which I'm sure you're all aware of every kind of pig meat. On average, when you harvest a pig, you get around 150 pounds of meat. That's from 1 year of feeding it. So I think that's a pretty good investment because most of this food is just going to be sitting in a landfill somewhere. Nothing is going to be eating it, if even, maybe some raccoons or wild dogs will get into the landfill and eat some of it, but I doubt they'll be able to get to most of it. So now that I know that this resource is here and huge, I'd like to be able to exploit it and utilize it and keep it from being wasted. Americans throw away a disgusting amount of all the food that's produced here. Yeah! Okay. And I just like to put my dent in keeping that amount of food out of the landfill if I can. It just feels my moral responsibility. So now I'm taking these 3 cans of evaporated milk. I don't eat this stuff. I'm lactose intolerant, and it's just taking up storage space for now. It was taking up storage space in a dumpster or a landfill. So, anyways, every day I add in 2 or 3 cans of either canned goods or things like mayonnaise, sauces, pudding cups, liquid things like that either take up room in the fridge or take up room on top of the fridge. And the pigs can benefit. The pigs can benefit from any of this dairy and fatty condiments because they'll just get the fat and sugar out of it and use it for gaining weight. So add that. Then I'm not sure why people do this, but the guy I got the pigs from said that he feeds them a high moisture content. So I'm going to go add water to this bucket until it's sloshy and there's actually more water than flour. And then the pigs just drink it up. They love it. I actually add grass, cut grass clippings. You could use cut straw or just throw some hay in there. But I observed while watching the pigs, at first I assumed that this big bucket of feed was going to be plenty enough for them to eat, that they'd be satisfied and satiated. But what I noticed was after they ate this stuff, they would go and eat grass. All the grass that was in their pen that I was keeping them in, they would go and chomp off the blades of grass and chew it up, which I thought was weird because I didn't expect pigs to just eat like a straight herbivore like that. Just chomping grass down. That's usually like a behavior for goats and animals of that nature, ruminants. But then I what? I'm feeding the pigs, just say. Anyways, then I noticed that if I just grabbed a handful of the grass that's growing around the cage and tossed it in there, that they'd eat the whole thing. And commercial pig feed is 50% alfalfa or hay and 50% grain. So surprisingly, you'd be surprised because you wouldn't expect it, but pigs need to eat a lot of fiber too. And it makes sense when you think about everything else that they're eating is essentially what people eat. But if people don't get fiber, they get constipated, they get the runs, the digestive system doesn't work properly and healthily. So it is important for the pigs to get the fiber. It cleans them out, helps them poop regular.